And here we go. So I made a cup of coffee that I seldom drink because it's a very great book number 18 of the university. The Psychology of Money, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, by Morgan Housel. I took a ton of notes, so I'm not gonna debrief needlessly on too much rhetoric of preamble, but the book was amazing. And so the one thing that I wanted to say to preface this lecture that I appreciated the most about Psychology of Money, book number 18 of Ratlife University, was the difference between being rational and being reasonable. It was a big recurring theme in this book, and it's something that Dave Ramsey talks about in his financial literacy that he encourages within others through his 7 baby steps, that there's the rational thing to do when it comes to your finances in terms of paying off high interest, credit cards, high interest debt first, and then, going down to paying off things with lower interest rates. He said, but rational thought isn't what got you to the circumstance predicament that you currently stand. So a lot more emotion is involved, a lot more ego is involved, a lot more psychology is involved. But the thing that I appreciated the most about this was the idea of giving yourself grace for mistakes, for blunders, for living in a world where a fraction of a percent of how money is used. And yet that makes up, statistically in this book, 80% of how you think money is viewed in reality, when your experiences and circumstances make up for, it's like a quadrillionth of the reality of it. I know that doesn't make any kind of sense whatsoever, but the whole point is, because your parents and your grandparents lived in a generation completely different from today, it's no fault of your own that you're instilled with these values about money, these ideas about money that aren't relevant and that haven't set you up for success in today's world that's completely different from the world of your parents' generation or of your grandparents, when they could buy a house outright with just a couple years of working, when they could get a very good, comfortable living on a single wage with a high school diploma. It's completely different than the world that we live in today. And so that's what I love the most about this book, is there's no bias, there's no bullshit, there's no filler. It's just golden. It's just factual, it's just consistent, it's just, here's the deal. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not, it doesn't matter the emotionality of the argument, this is just what happened. And I love that approach to the book. So with that, we're gonna shovel down this coffee because, like I said, this is gonna be a very long but very good lecture, because this is the first time I've ever read this book and I really enjoyed it for that primary reason. So here we go. You guys ready? Book number 18 of this noble quest of Ratlife University, The Psychology of Money. All right. That's from, what is it called? Wolf of Wall Street, when he's on his detox. I'm sweating because I had a cardio session this morning, and then a training session, and then a post-workout cardio session, and then we went to Walmart, and then we went to Costco. And it was like 80 degrees, or just under 80 degrees in the apartment, and I just turned the AC on. So if you see me with the glaze, it's because it is hot as fuck in here, and I'm drinking hot coffee. To begin. Financial success is not a hard science. It's a soft skill where how you behave is more important than what you know. And I underlined that part, how you behave. You're gonna find within all the books of this university, all of the personal development, learning, like I said in the last lecture, for the students who are paying attention, isn't necessarily learning something new, right? A lot of shit is common sense. It's learning to behave in a way that you haven't previously behaved, okay? So financial success is not hard science, it's a soft skill where how you behave is more important than what you know. Yes, you know you shouldn't get super deep into credit card debt, yet it happens. Yes, you know that you should pay off high interest things first that are wrecking you on the back end, that you're paying 2x, 3x, 4x. How long have you had those student loans for? That car financing, car note, those credit card payments, you know? How long have you had them? Oh, here's a $10,000 loan that's perpetuated for a decade. Add student loans, add the mortgage, add the credit cards, add the car financing, put insurance on all of it, put interest on all of this. Oh, I'm a slave for life. That's the game. That's the importance of having financial literacy within this university. Because think of it. My goal with Ratlife is to what? Plant trees under whose shade I will never sit, in the form of seeds of belief that one day get watered, right? By you, as soon as you believe it for yourself. I'm worthy, I'm enough, I can escape, I can make it, I can have my dream relationship, I can have my dream financial income, right? I can be free, I can live a life of freedom forever. We can give people the key to their escape who are enslaved, who got indoctrinated into the rat life. But better yet, we can reach the people before they get enslaved in the first place. Imagine if you were in junior high school, right? And you were given financial literacy to where by the time you were 18, you had such a development that when you were proposed with the idea of going into thousands of dollars of student loans, adding on car financing, adding on credit cards, not being sold on the bullshit American dream of the mortgage, that yes, 100 years ago, when you could pay it off in a couple of years and have your home owned outright, completely makes sense, completely plausible. But what this book discusses, that's not the world that we live in today, is it? No, it's not. Now, you are a slave for life. But imagine if you weren't from education. That's the gift that we can give people through the discussion of these books. So, next. Studying history makes you feel like you understand something, but until you've lived through it and personally felt its consequences, you may not understand it enough to change your behavior. And I love that so much because there's a quote from Andrew Tate. I'm not going to butcher this. People either learn something the hard way or the hardest possible way. And I've, even with people very close to me, that they have me as their resource, and whether I'm coaching them just in life, in their relationship pursuit, in their mindset, with finances, with physique, whatever be the case. And I see them about to make a mistake that I previously made in the past, and I'm trying to help them avoid that pain of it. I'm learning some people just need to touch the fucking stove to know that it's hot. And you have to let them do that. You have to let them fail, because some people cannot learn conceptually. They cannot learn from other people's mistakes. You can call it ego, you can call it stubbornness, you can call it arrogance, right? Some people don't fucking humble themselves to accept wisdom that's right there. And so they have to get fucking wrecked for themselves to learn. And I am not free of that. I will make super blunders and only learn. And then you'll find in life, by God, the lesson will be repeated until it's learned. If you're continuing to face the same thing, it's because you haven't learned the fucking lesson yet. Because if you did, you would have what? Changed your behavior. Next. Some lessons have to be experienced before they can be understood. Our findings suggest that individual investors' willingness to bear risk depends on personal history. Yes, I like that. What do I care about the law? Ain't I got the power? Cornelius Vanderbilt. And the reason that I wrote that down is it's a really good reminder that the rules don't apply to you when you're financially free. As in, if you get a parking ticket, you can literally just throw fucking money at them. If you get a speeding ticket, you can throw money at them. If you get this fine, the rules don't apply to people past a certain bracket, past a certain tier. And think of it this way. When the bullshit of COVID happened and your livelihood was threatened if you didn't comply, if you're at a high enough echelon, you could not comply, and their ramifications or consequences would have zero impact, zero effect on you. And I watched a video very recently with Patrick Bet-David, what was the turning point for him? And his father was admitted into the hospital for a heart attack, and he was upset, they were upset. He was like, why aren't you tending to my dad? And there was a lady there who spoke to him with the greatest amount of disrespect, as in, who do you think you are? Who do you think pays for this? Not you, the government, all this. And we don't have to service your father with any sort of rush, with any sort of urgency or priority. And that was the turning point, the catalyst for him to say, fuck this, enough. He said, and then they said, what was the turning point for you? He went to his car and he was like, your dad's gonna die because you're out here partying 6 days a week, chasing girls, and he's about to die, and you will live with that for the rest of your life, knowing that his one son, who could have done something, and he called himself a schlep, was a schlep, and you won't tell anyone, but you'll have to live with that for the rest of your life. If you want your dad to die, keep doing this shit, go ahead. He said the next day he went to work, and he worked 100-hour weeks ever since, retired his dad. And I get fucking goosebumps telling that story because it reminds me of my rock bottom, which I told you in a previous video was May 21st, 2023 at EDC, when I was spoken by someone who used to be my best friend with the utmost fucking disrespect for me to say, fuck this, I'm changing my life. The day you say enough is the day, while you can't get to the destination overnight, you can change direction like that. So I love that idea so much that the rules don't apply to you once you get to this echelon. As in healthcare, I watched a video by Tristan Tate. He said, do you know what healthcare is for the elite, for the wealthy, for the rich? He said, when you get cancer, the common person, they give you one of 3 treatments for your chemo. He said, that's not what happens when a wealthy person gets cancer. When they get cancer, they take a sample of that tissue and then they test it against thousands of chemos, treatments, and the one that it tests with the best, that's the treatment that they give you, and you have to pay a fucking premium for it, and they do it out of a lab, he said, I think in Switzerland, all of these things. But he said that's what healthcare is, and that is, again, the rules that don't apply to the common person, such as healthcare, such as fucking freedom. You found out in COVID that are God-given, unalienable rights, that amongst which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, are not a given. They were a fucking privilege that they allot to you when it's in their best interest, when it's convenient for them. Because when it's not, we can cherry pick whose businesses stay open. We can cherry pick which men can provide for their family, whose livelihoods we can fucking take away. In a heart, you find out it's all a facade. If you've seen The Truman Show, it's all a set, and you're a fucking pawn if you don't wake up. That is the severity of you being free. I've said this in one of our first lectures. If you don't have the freedom to speak the fucking truth, how can you consider yourself free? If you can't say, hey, this is bullshit, without fear of, oh, I'm gonna get fired, oh, I'm gonna get let go. Now I can't pay for my mortgage, now I can't provide for my family. So now I have to live a life in perpetual fucking cowardice. Unless you wake up, unless you have a sense of urgency that I need to be free. You aren't free if you're not financially free. We could go into the child argument, not to go astray. But again, it ties in. What do I care about the law? Ain't I got the power? If you don't have the means to have your kid outside of the fucking horrific state that is the public school, the public education system, then your kid is going to be indoctrinated by the curriculum that's set forth by the government. Have you been to those elementary schools where there's the pride flag in the classroom, where they're talking about trans rights, where they're talking about sex of any orientation to fucking 5 and 6 year olds, when they're insinuating the idea of chemical castration to fucking teenagers? That smut and garbage and degeneracy is currently being enacted in schools to your children because you don't have the fucking means to pull them out of that shithole. What do I care about the law? Ain't I got the power? Food for thought. It should upset you, man. If you feel like you lack motivation, you don't have any drive, just look at anyone that you care about, anyone that you love, and understand that you, particularly if you're a fucking man watching this, every person in your vicinity, in your circle of influence, your friends, your families, your lover, your spouse, your girlfriend, whatever, their life could be fucking infinitely better absent your cowardice, absent your neglect, right? You could make everyone's life around you better if you leveled the fuck up. What do I care about the law? Ain't I got the power? Love it. Next. As much as we recognize the role of luck and success, the role of risk means we should forgive ourselves and leave room for understanding when judging failures. There's an idea by Jim Rohn that goes, how quickly are we to forgive a friend when they make a mistake? Very, very quick, right? Very quick. No worries, dude. Of course, it's fine. How slow are we to forgive ourselves when we make the same mistake? We don't give ourselves a fraction of the grace that we impart on others. And I'm speaking for myself personally. And the reason is, it's a quote from Jim Rohn, the reason that it's so hard for us to love ourselves is because we're so hyper aware of our shortcomings, mistakes, and failures. And it's very true. When you know that you could do more, that you could do better, yet you're not, yet you're neglecting, yet you're cutting the corners, you know what you do when the camera's off, you know the days that you snooze, where you skip the gym, where you fuck around with your diet, where you're dishonest, where you cheat, where you stop at rep 9 in the gym, where you don't go up to that girl, you know all the promises unkept. And so it's really hard for yourself to look, perhaps you, perhaps me at times, yourself in the fucking mirror when they begin to stack. When you can't even look at yourself in the mirror and trust yourself and trust your word, because you know you're gonna break it, right? It's your mind, your subconscious saying, who are you kidding, right? But if you're consistent with your integrity, with your merit, with your character, you'll find yourself be able to fucking look at yourself in the eyes, to look at other women in the eyes, right? Because you know, no, I'm the man who fucking says what he means. My character and integrity are fucking intact, right? I am consistent with who I am and what I say I want within my actions. So for that reason, to give ourselves a good reminder, to give ourselves grace. There's no reason to risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. Don't YOLO when it comes to investing. Next. I love this quote. This will be a homework assignment. Memorize this quote. Happiness equals results minus expectations. Done. End of lecture. Happiness equals results minus expectations. I love that so much because when your expectations are here and these are your results, unhappy. When they're met, content. When your expectations are here and the results are here, this gap, happiness gap. We like that gap. Okay, memorize that. Memorize that. And it's not to say live a life of fucking perpetual pessimism, but they're going to talk about very shortly having a high margin of safety, room for error. What that means is, and that's probably one of the biggest and most important takeaways from this book, is some people, they plan out their day that I need everything to happen perfectly or else I'm fucked. They leave no room for error. But you'll find if a million things could happen, a million things could go wrong, which there's a beautiful quote in this that I'm going to share that's so good. It's like the best thing you can do is plan for the plan to not go according to plan. It's so good. When you have that room for error, then you're just like Hakuna Matata, no worries. But if you don't, you're not going to find yourself with happiness because your expectations are consistently exceeding the results because there's no margin, no room for error. I found this when I would travel. I would see people who, if I didn't make this train or I didn't, it's just like, it's the end of the fucking world. Relax. We can make the next one. The fucking city's not going anywhere. The restaurant, oh no, it's going to close. Who gives a shit? We'll go to a different one. But when they have no margin of safety, no room for error, the margin of safety was coined by, I believe, Benjamin Graham, who was the mentor of Warren Buffett. He's the author of The Intelligent Investor, which is a book coming later on in this very university. So memorize that. Happiness equals results minus expectations. The hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. Keeping up with the Joneses idea. Having a sense of enough. And I love that. Idea of being proud but never satisfied, pros and cons. So I put that as a challenge, right? Because I love the idea of being content and being comfortable by not needing more and more and more. Because then the goalpost perpetually moves and you'll never be fucking happy because you'll never be content. You'll never have a sense of enough. However, a huge caveat, you need to be hungry. You need to quote Arnold, to stay hungry. To quote Christian Guzman, who coined somebody else when he took this line, you need to be proud but never satisfied. That's how you consistently level up and grow. Ed Milet had a ratio of 80-20. 80% pride for how far you've come, the journey to date. 20% how can I improve, how can I be better? You need that hunger, or else you'll find yourself in a state of complacency, a state of enough, of good enough. Let me put that asterisk in that caveat. And then you'll find yourself regressing in terms of happiness, because happiness will also, not only is results minus expectations, happiness is progression, right? And you can even put that into the formula, results expectations. I expect to be here, and yet I'm here. My results, my current circumstance, right? But if I'm on the way, and my expectations are I should be here, and my results are here, in terms of my progression, then I'm happy. Do you see? Right? That has to make sense. So you're gonna find that if you don't have a hunger to constantly improve, you'll find your expectations of where you should be go like this over time. And the disparity will invite depression, sadness, frustration, resentment, bitterness, anger, particularly when you see other people who had the same beginning as you or greater disadvantage exceed where you are. And all it is going to be a mirror reflection of the person you could have become had you had their what? Courage to pursue. Why am I moving my hands like this? It's because of what Ray Dalio talks about in the book Principles, that you try something, you fail, you learn, you iterate, and you improve. And that is the cycle. It's constantly failing fast and failing forward, up and forward, right? So when you're here and you see this person go here, that's why I move my fingers like that, you're not gonna say it, but the reality is you're going to be bitter and hateful about yourself because of your cowardice, your fucking neglect. While you watch someone else who had the courage to pursue, who was no smarter than you, who wasn't more talented than you, who wasn't even more hardworking than you. They just had belief in themselves and they just had courage. That's all you need. Next. His skill is investing. His secret is time. That's how compounding works. What is a success cycle? It's so important because you tap into the power of compounding. Haha! To come, relax. At the end of the semester, I believe, if we're on track with the reading, starts with belief, potential, action, results over time, until over time you tap into the magic of compounding, compound interest, compounded progression, compounded results. You get progression what? Not linearly, exponentially. So why is that important? It doesn't fucking matter how small the first step is, because progression is not linear, it is exponential. What? Over time. When? Until. Wow. I love this university so much. Here we go. I really do. Because each one of these I'm doing the best that I can per lecture. And over time, all it is one collective, beautiful garden that I can be proud of. Love it so much. And again, life is not about what I get. It's about who I become in this noble quest, in the pursuit of this noble endeavor, to bring such a university to life. And what I'm able to give now, and only now, that I've become more. A made man. All right, just as anyone can become I also have water. Enrolled and active and participating and reflecting within this university. Okay. Do not underestimate the power of compounding. You don't need tremendous force to create tremendous results. To quote the Bible, all you need is the belief that of a mustard seed. That's it. Why? Because of the success cycle. Why? Because results and progression is not linear, it's exponential. Okay. Getting money is one thing, keeping it is another. Grant Cardone talks about that same sentiment. Charlie, I believe this is Warren Buffett talking about Charlie Munger. Charlie and I always knew that we would become incredibly wealthy. We were not in a hurry to get wealthy. We knew it would happen. Rick, a third person in their squad, was just as smart as us, but he was in a hurry. I've had that same sentiment. I've told this to women that I've dated forever. I said, I'm going to be a millionaire one day. And now that sentiment's changed to, I'm going to be a billionaire one day, so long as I don't die from these lovely heart issues. But over a long enough time horizon with consistency, with the power of compounding, it's inevitable. Why? Because what is progression? It is not linear, it is exponential. There's a good statistic in here that Warren Buffett got, at the time of publishing, his net worth was like $84 billion. 81 billion out of those 84 billion accrued to him after the age of like 65 or something. Like, if you get decades to play the game, and what I say in a previous lecture, success is inevitable. Everyone wins so long as they don't stop playing the game. Your results over decade after decade after decade, again, it's not linear, it's exponential. So something like you becoming a millionaire, if you're just patient, if you just have belief and the courage to pursue until you can expand your time horizon, the number one marker of success from Eat That Frog of any person, not demographic, not beginnings, not any sort of qualitative sentiment, ideology, fixation, the number one marker of any successful person across any race, creed, background, education level, status, gender, sexual orientation, was what? Their fucking time horizon. Thinking in terms of decades, not 6 months, not a year. Let go of the ego. From what book? Acres of Diamonds by Russell Conwell. Let patience have her perfect work. We're doing this for a fucking lifetime. The pursuit of our potential. Do you understand? Get that through your fucking head. I see this shit all the time with transformations. I need to lose 100 pounds in 3 months. Did it take you fucking 3 months to put on those 100 pounds? No. 10 years of shitty lifestyle, shitty dieting, neglect from your training. That is what caused you to live out your current circumstance, your current predicament. So perhaps it's not unfathomable that 3 months is not going to do 10 fucking years of garbage. Perhaps it's going to take some time. But perhaps it doesn't matter how small the first step is. Perhaps it's fine if we just focus on losing 1 pound. You're going to get the success. It's inevitable that you'll see the transformation to fruition, to until. If you just what? Expand the time horizon. Don't be in a hurry, especially when it comes to money. Any person enrolled in this university will be equipped to become a millionaire with patience, with humility, with consistency. They're all easy disciplines. But so as much as they are easy to do, they are also easy not to do. That's the difference. All it is you doing the work you don't want to on the days that you don't want to over long enough period of time until. Quote from Winston Churchill, success is what? Going from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm, from one failure to the next. So I love that. We were not in a hurry. We always knew. What does that insinuate? Belief. We always knew we were going to be wealthy, right? We weren't in a hurry. We weren't in a rush. Let patience have her perfect work. Next. I love that so much. And I even wrote that. Let patience have her perfect work. Planning is important, but the most important part of every plan is to plan on the plan not going according to plan. It's fucking hilarious. And that insinuates the margin of safety, the room for error that we discussed earlier. Next. These cap out at 30 minutes until I get the monies for a new camera, unless somebody wants to gift me a Canon R6 Mark II EOS, you know, one of those, $3,500. I'll take it. That's the camera that I want to get next for this noble quest of university. Okay. I will. In time. It was going to spill. It was spilling off the cup. You couldn't see. All right. Many bets fail not because they were wrong, but because they were mostly right in a situation that required things to be exactly right. I touched on this. I prefaced this. I got you prepared. I looped you. Okay, I'll stop. Room for error, often called margin of safety, coined from Benjamin Graham, like I discussed, is one of the most underappreciated forces in finance. It comes in many forms: a frugal budget, flexible thinking, and a loose timeline. Anything that lets you live happily with a range of outcomes. I love that so much. And I said you can apply that to traveling, the ecstasy in flexibility, money, and an unfixed schedule. It's completely true. And I don't need to tell you why. Because if you need it to happen, if you need it to be exactly right, I need to hit this train, I need to attend this this TripAdvisor excursion that I signed up for. That's the worst thing you can do, is have the entire trip meticulously planned out right and everything booked, so that if something doesn't go wrong, then you fuck up the formula. If expectations are at 100% need for perfection, and it's anything less than that, you won't be happy. But if you're just like Hakuna Matata, and your expectations are here, and there's a high margin of safety, high room for error, then it doesn't fucking matter if this or this or this or this happens, because expectations right here. Do you like how I drew that? I do. I'm sweating. I don't know if you can tell in this pink shirt. It's hot. It's hot. All right. It's different from being conservative. Conservative is avoiding a certain level of risk. Margin of safety is raising the odds of success at a given level of risk by increasing your chances of survival. I underlined this next part. Its magic is that the higher your margin of safety, the smaller the edge needs to be to have a favorable outcome. Isn't that cool? If you have your expectations here, then you could fail, and it's actually a quote that I write later on. You could fail 50% of the time and still make a fortune. And Mark Cuban says this, you just need to be right once. Andrew Tate says this, if you focus for one fucking period of time, for once in your life, you could be rich and free forever. If you just focus for one time. And he says to get your dick out of your hand, turn off the porn one fucking time. Lock in, focus, no fucking distractions. For once, if you be right one time, freedom forever. That's my only sentiment when I'm doing Ratlife. It's what's the alternative? A life of perpetual slavery, right? Here there's a chance to be free forever. People think it's risky pursuing a business, working on a business for 3 to 5 years, and yet have no qualms with being a slave for 40 for a fucking lifetime. Sold on the golden years past retirement, where then you age horrifically. You're not active anymore, you're not mentally stimulated. And so you're free for 6 years, geriatric, can't function. Realizing that only when it's all too late, wow, I just got fucked. Unless you wake up. There is no risk. That's the lie that they sell you so that you'll live a life of fear. You have nothing to lose by going for it, ever. Next. And I put underneath that, it's 100% true. Its magic is that the higher your margin of safety, the smaller the edge needs to be for a favorable outcome. Because why? You just need to be right once. Zero stress, Hakuna Matata, LOL. Perhaps 99% of the works someone like Berggruen acquired in his life turned out to be of little value. Excuse me, it was an art collector that made millions. But that doesn't particularly matter if the other 1% turn out to be the work of someone like Picasso. Love that. Why? You just need to be right once. So everything else is not a failure. It's so insignificant comparatively. Quote by Michael Jordan, I missed over 9,000 shots in my career. I was trusted, I believe it's 26 times, could be wrong, don't quote me, even though I'm quoting a quote. With the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again. Emphasis. And that is why I succeed. Nobody remembers the fucking failures. He's known as the greatest of all time. Perhaps 99% of those works turned out to be of little value, but the 1% were fucking Picassos. You just need to be right once. You just need to be focused once. You can tell from the energy that I'm getting, not just from the caffeine. I have this drive that I'm seeing this university, this noble quest, these 1,000 books to fruition. All of the failures that I've accrued, that I've amassed, that have compounded, have gotten me to this point where I know without a shadow of a doubt that this university is what I am called to do. As in failed supplement company, failed online coaching, failed apparel, failed personal training, but I never viewed them as a failures. Website development, whatever, all these other hustles, businesses, entrepreneurial ventures that I've started, fail. No. Preparation for what God has prepared for me, which is what? This university. Do you understand? This is the noble quest. All of those things were preparing me for the battle to come, which is the next 24 and less than a half years. Ratlife University, where we plant the seeds of belief in others, right? Where we plant trees under whose shade we will never sit. The idea that anyone can escape the rat life, starting with belief and the courage to pursue, we are all going to make it. So, next. Walt Disney had produced more than 400 cartoons. His first studio went bankrupt. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs netted $8 million in 6 months. Or grossed. All company debts were paid off. I put a smiley face next to that because I was like, how is that not an accident that I'm reading that when I have company debt with Ratlife from the pre-workout supplement company? But all you need is what? One win, one Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. By 1938, he had produced several hundred hours of film. But in business terms, the 83 minutes were all that mattered. As in, there's a good quote by a famous, it could be a tennis player. It might have been Novak. I spent 17 years. It took me 17 years to become an overnight success. I don't know who said that. I thought it was him. Same thing with everyone. Nobody sees the years and years and years of perpetual failure. They see the win. They see when you have your hand raised on the podium holding the trophy. They don't see any of the fucking work, and they don't want to emulate the work that it took for that hand to be raised. Quote from Greg Platt. Next. Anything in life that is huge, profitable, famous, or influential is the result of a tail event, an outlying one in thousands or millions event. And so his idea that he discusses in this book is that it's kind of like the 400 hours with Walt Disney, but he had the one Snow White, right? Those 83 minutes. And he says, in life, you're showing up every day, trying and failing. It's one thing that's going to take you to the next level. It's one win that's going to net thousands and thousands. It's one video that's going to go viral, whatever, that's going to change your life forever, right? Salt Bae could be a good example of this. One video of him sprinkling fucking salt on something, millionaire afterwards. Like, all you need is the one, he calls it a tail end event. So, but you don't get that luck, that grace, whatever you want to call it, without work. What is this? What is luck? When preparation collides with opportunity. That's all it is. It's a numbers game over time, where you can harness the law of compounding. I am proud when I do so. Professor Tarkout. The quote of, and I put this, and I'm going to butcher it because I know it's wrong, but maybe you'll remember the quote. Of 100 soldiers, 70 don't belong there, 20 are going to die immediately, 9 are okay, and there's one warrior. That was what I thought of when he was describing the tail event, was that idea. Is there's one killer amongst all of the sheep there. It's kind of like in that scene from 300 where he's like, you, what is your profession? Sculptor. What are you? I'm a potter, sir. And then he's like, to his 300, and then, they all, oh. And then he's like, see, old friend, I brought more soldiers, more warriors than you did. Arcadian. And dollar cost averaging versus timing. And then I put SNE wins by a mile. What the hell is that? Sue wins by a mile. He did a analogy where this person times the market, this person does this person does this, and who wins? It's just the person who dollar cost average in terms of their investing. Dollar cost averaging is when, regardless if the market is going up or down, you invest the same shit on the same consistency every month in whatever you're doing. What he does is low cost index funds like Vanguard. I think the code is VTI. It's the most popular one. But yes, so dollar cost averaging versus timing. You win by dollar cost averaging every single time. There's a book that Tony Robbins wrote I believe it's Money Master the Game, where he discusses that even if you chose to enter the market in on the worst possible day, right, where it fucking tanked, you would still over time make more money than if you were not in the market whatsoever. As in, the only way to lose is by not being in the market, because then you'll miss the days where you could make the most. So, and the way that they all discuss to just win over the long enough time horizon, again, it's going to depend on your goals, is dollar cost averaging. Regardless, you don't get emotionally involved, but you give yourself grace if you do, with the markets going up, down, sideways, the economy's doing this, all that. Fear sells. He talks about that too in his book. And that's important in terms of the psychology of money, because when people insinuate fear, that's when people take actions that they shouldn't be taking. Again, another book by Tony Robbins, if you really want to tap into financial literacy and the psychology behind investing, it's Unshakable, where he talks about not buying into FOMO, not buying into fear, that especially the news that they try to fucking pump and hype for you to take a action that they want you to take. Understand that the news is controlled information. When they talk about a fucking cryptocurrency, when they talk about this, is they're trying to get the slave mind who buys into all this garbage. What are you? You're their liquidity. Do you understand? You're their exit. As in, they're positioning themselves by giving you controlled information to dictate your investment strategy. And they're talking about, oh, this is going to go to the moon, right? And Elon will fucking tweet the Dogecoin and then the fucking rocket. And so what does your dumbass do? What did Tarek do a few years ago? He buys this stupid ass fucking Doge crypto coin and loses $3,500. Like, I'm not, free of this. I'm not absolved of these sins. I have done that stupid shit too. But understand that I didn't know at the time that the information that they're giving you from this tweet, from the news, controlled information for you, the slave, the commoner, to be their what? Their exit liquidity. Don't be someone else's exit liquidity by not buying into the news and stupid shit like that. That's controlled information, right? Question, why isn't the news a paid service? Why is it free? Because it's information that they want to give you to be a good slave. But you, if you're enrolled in this university, are doing what? Standing guard at the doorway of your mind, allowing manipulation from your enemy to see where they want you to go, and then using your mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrator. You're perspicacious. You're not fucking oblivious. You're awake. Welcome to class. There's the old pilot quip that their jobs are hours and hours of boredom punctuated by moments of sheer terror. I put LOL. It's the same in investing. Your success as an investor will be determined by how you respond to punctuated moments of terror, not the years spent on cruise control. Food for thought. To remain what? Unshakable, by Tony Robbins. And I put cool, calm, collected, emotional control. Discipline, consistency, and focus, while everyone else fears, panics, and is distracted. Play the long game, you always win. Next. Having a strong sense of controlling one's life is a more dispensable predictor of positive feelings of well-being than any of the objective conditions of life we have considered. I love that. It ties in with the human need of certainty. If we are in a state of perpetual unlimited uncertainty, we freak the fuck out. We have no feeling of control of our destiny, of our life. In Man's Search for Meaning, and I shared this with Ricardo because it blew my mind. I've shared this with many people, including her name's Shay, old coworker that I even gave the book to because I was so fascinated by the single idea that what was the worst part of surviving the 4 Nazi concentration camps? It was not the cannibalism. It wasn't the murder. It wasn't all of the worst of the worst of the worst. You know what it was? Not knowing when or if you were ever going to be free. Living in a state of unlimited uncertainty. That was the real agony. He says that was the greatest pain. When spoken from a person who witnessed cannibalism, or at least heard of it from outbreaks from other camps. But it was prevalent in those camps. Murder, the worst of human dignities. That wasn't the worst pain. It was not knowing if this was forever, not knowing when you were going to be fucking free. How many people watching this can resonate with that? Where you're working a dead-end job, you're in a shitty relationship, you hate your fucking life, you're unhappy with your physique, you can't even look at yourself in the mirror and fucking smile, you hate the car that you're driving, you hate the house that you're living in, your wife doesn't respect you, you're just like, fuck this, right? And you're just in a state of, is this forever? Is this the rest of my fucking life? Having a strong sense of controlling one's life is a more dependable predictor of positive feelings of well-being than any of the objective conditions of life we have considered. Control over doing what you want, when you want, with the people you want, i.e. freedom of your time, is the broadest lifestyle variable that makes people happy. Complete autonomy of your time to be your complete and true self. That was the bliss of being an entrepreneur. As hard as it was, as fucking miserable as it was, as lonely as it was, as painful it was, having complete autonomy of time to do whatever the fuck I wanted, any day I wanted, to go wherever I wanted, to spend as much time or as little time, wherever I want, particularly when I was traveling. Having complete and utter freedom of time. I felt so free. I felt so alive. I felt so in harmony with God's time, presence, with being myself, with being harmonious with who I am, with not playing a fucking character, not a life of perpetual slavery amidst the rat life, but having tasted the freedom of escape, tasted freedom through escape. How the fuck do you go back to the rat life with any other desire than to be free again, right? When you know what it's like to be free, when you know how resourceful you become from entrepreneurship, when you have to pull it off, when you have to figure out and find a way, you can't go back to the slave mind. You can't go back to the fucking rat life. So, but that is the number one marker for variable that makes people happy, is freedom. Everyone yearns for it, but most men lead quiet lives of desperation because they forfeited their dreams, they forfeited their goals. Don't be that guy. Don't forfeit your fucking life to cowardice under the false illusion, the delusion that you have something to lose by going for it in the one life that you have. That's worth this noble quest, is what I put. Align your money and actions towards a life that lets you do what you want, when you want, with who you want, where you want, for as long as you want. A life you don't need a vacation from. I put read page 86 and the preface on 85. If I wrote it, it must have been really good. So Derek Sivers, a successful entrepreneur, once wrote about a friend who asked him to tell a story of how he got rich. And this is very important because I'm giving you the blueprint of how to escape the rat life. It's written in this fucking paragraph. I had a day job in Midtown Manhattan paying $20,000 per year, about minimum wage. I never ate out and never took a taxi. My cost of living was about $1,000 a month and I was earning $1,800 a month, so $800 net. I did this for 2 years and saved up $12,000. I was 22 years old. Once I had $12,000, so that's the runway where I could survive for, say, 6 months without any need to cover all of my overhead expenses, without needing any source of income, any sales. That is how you escape the rat life, is giving yourself that window. Once I had $12,000, I quit my job and became a full-time musician. I knew I could get a few gigs per month to pay for the cost of living, so I was free. I quit my job a month later and never had a job again. When I finished telling my friend this story, he asked for more. I said no, that was it. He said, no, what about when you sold your company? I said no, that didn't make a big difference in my life. That was just more money in the bank. The difference happened when I was 22. How do you not like an incredible book like that? I had to have read that fucking 10 times because I said, that's the game, that's the game, that's the game. All you need is a runway. All you need is to get your overhead expenses here and your income here, and to have this margin, this gap, that after you've paid off your fucking debt that's keeping you perpetually enslaved, you do not increase your cost of living when your income increases. And you use that money to stack and stack and stack. That is your window for freedom for fucking ever. And while you're doing that, you're doing whatever it is for your passion, for your business, for your purpose, your calling, that you'll be able to monetize later from exponential return, such as these lectures, such as this university. This will monetize years from now. right? I don't need any of these videos to make money now. I don't need any income from this university. It will later on, after I've created my runway. And then freedom forever. Do you understand that? I just gave you the roadmap to be free, to escape the rat life forever. Rewind, listen, apply it to yourself. Take the fucking audits. What are my overhead expenses? Have you even done that exercise? I said that in a previous book. I think it was Richest Man in Babylon. What are your current overhead expenses? To the dollar. Most of you don't know. Most of you have never fucking tracked a month's expenses in your life. I don't know where the money goes. I don't know how I'm a slave forever. You don't even, it's just like trying to get shredded, trying to diet down and not counting your calories. So you're fucking guessing every day. How can we put you in a caloric deficit to where you're losing weight if you don't know how many calories you're consuming? How can we achieve financial freedom if you don't know what your overhead expenses are? If you don't know to the dollar what your income is? You don't know where the money is going. You don't know how much is being put to debt. You're afraid to be honest with your situation, to even stare at the reality of what your outstanding debt is. We've all been there. But this university is about fucking courage, humility, not seeing the situation as harder, worse than it is, not seeing it as better than it is, seeing it for what it fucking is, so that we can remedy it. These were my mistakes. I'm gonna take full fucking ownership. The past does not define me. My fault, but you know what? What's to come, that's my fault too. We can't get there if we don't look at our situation honestly for what it is. So that's homework assignment number 2. Homework, I'm gonna write it right here. Homework, income, debt, expense, and if you have assets, spreadsheet. I think in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I love how I have a little library right here. I think that's what he calls it. Spreadsheet. Statement. It's called a statement. Statement, not a fucking spreadsheet. That's the homework assignment. Do that. Write it out. What are my overhead expenses to the dollar? How much debt do I have to the dollar on everything? Credit card 1, this much. Credit card 2, this much. Credit card 3, this much. Car note, this much remaining debt. Write it fucking down. So that way you can say, okay, these are my overhead expenses. This is my current income. Now I can start to make a fucking plan. Either I reduce my lifestyle, cut my fucking ego, take inventory of all the shit that I do not need. I don't need all these Uber Eats. I don't need taking all these Ubers. I don't need all this garbage alcohol. Oh wow. All of a sudden I'm earning more money because I'm just not being a fucking negligent, let's use kinder words, with my spending. And then, okay, that's not enough. Okay, maybe I need to downsize my living, right? Perhaps that's not negotiable for you. My 1-bedroom apartment, not negotiable. Because I would rather pay a fucking premium to control my environment, not be surrounded by drug addicts or alcoholics or degenerates or fucking losers, but have complete autonomy of peace of mind, of an environment surrounded by support, encouragement, growth, positivity, and the word fucking yes. I'm happy to pay the premium for it because I know I'm going to increase my income. I'm going to level the fuck up. I'm going to get that 6-figure job, and I'm not going to increase my cost of living so that I can make that margin to be free forever. Apply that same thing in your own homework assignment so you can plan your escape, so you can be free from your rat life forever. Okay. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay. That was page 86. Next. Rockefeller's product wasn't what he did with his hands. It is what he figured out inside his head. And I wrote this down because this is what I do every day at work. And it's so important. The power of just fucking thinking. But we live in a world where they don't allow you to think because they have you numb from scrolling on fucking social media. Your dopamine receptors are flooded. You can't even find appreciation, gratitude, happiness in the simple things of life. Because you have no feelings any fucking more. You're so numb from scrolling, TikTok brain, jacking off, Pornhub, all this garbage. Your mind is fucking broken, right? From scrolling, from FOMO, from the search on fucking Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, garbage, clutter, fog, eating garbage food, not exercising, right? Your mind is so fucked you can't even think straight, you can't even articulate your thoughts. Why can I say that with such certainty? Because that used to be me. I couldn't even open a fucking book and sit down and fucking still and read for 10 minutes without needing the stimulus from my phone. Because my mind was fucking broken. And so you have to extrapolate that. Why? I'm not fucking stupid. I'm not dim. Why can I not concentrate? Oh, that's done on purpose from the powers that be. Why do they not want me to fucking think for myself? Because if I did, if I was perspicacious, if I stood guard at the doorway of my mind, if I allowed manipulation from my enemies to see where they wanted me to go, and I used my mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrator, I would see that the whole fucking game is a scam, is bullshit. I'm a fucking pawn. I'm a slave in this game. If you were awake, you would say, what the fuck? And they want me to do this shit for 40 fucking years in the one life that I have? Yeah, you can go fuck yourself. Rockefeller's product wasn't what he did with his hands. It was what he figured out inside his head. Despite sitting quietly most of the day in what might have looked like free time or leisure hours to most people, he was constantly working in his mind, thinking problems through. Important. Next. Work not ending at work due to a thought-based decision job. I love that idea. So jobs, some of them were just labor intensive, right? And you know people like this. My brother works as a mechanic, my other brother, a police officer. There's jobs that are labor where you can turn your brain off once you get home, maybe not the police job portion, but other people have managerial roles, leadership jobs to where you're managing people, where you're solving problems, to where you're taking that shit home with you, right? And then it's as if you're working 24 hours a day. It perpetuates that feeling of fucking slavery from not having an end time of your rat life. Perhaps you at home can relate to that. When I read that, I said, I even wrote it down. I said 24/7 rat life, it's time to escape. Wealth is hidden. I love this sentiment. So wealth isn't what you see, it's what you do not see. It's in the purchases you do not make. That's wealth. It's income not spent. Wealthy equals freedom and flexibility, which is what? Financial assets not yet spent. That's what it gives you. Freedom and flexibility. So it's very important. Wealth is what you don't spend. It's the money you keep. I want to be a millionaire. Do you want to be a millionaire, or do you want to be someone who can spend $1 million? Difference. And then he puts, that's the exact opposite of a millionaire, because then you wouldn't have it, right? A lot of people, they don't want the things, they want the status, admiration, shit from others that they think the things are going to bring them. You literally don't even know what just happened. I just had to cycle through like 6 SD cards because they were all full. Look at this. Or four different ones, and the one that's in here, so 5. Full. So I literally had to go to my computer, delete all of the past material, past lectures, and then here we are. So give me 1 second and then we'll continue. All right, we were talking about Tony Robbins, but I don't know where we left off, so we're just gonna continue. But wealth is what you don't spend. I wish I knew what I was saying with Tony Robbins. But alas, that's what happens when you have all your SD cards full. Okay, learning to be happy with less money creates a gap between what you have and what you want, right? And then that's the importance of delayed gratification is, and I even wrote this down later on, doing the work others won't with your financial habits and spending so that you can live a life others can't. It's always baffled my mind when I would see people go on a trip to, say, Mexico, Cabo, Cancun, Hawaii, and I was like, why are you doing this when you could do 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 months in Europe or in South America or in Australia or wherever? It's just, I've always leaned into delayed gratification because I've always sought a bigger cash out. And so I've always enacted do what others won't so that you can live a life others can't. But I like that so much, is learning to be happy with less money creates a gap between what you have and what you want, right? What you actually want, what you want the most. And so if you don't have what you want, then change the rhetoric to it's not a priority. Because if it was, we wouldn't be having this discussion now, would we? You would find a way, you would make the time. But the fact is, you don't want it bad enough. Because if you did, you would stop eating the fucking Starbucks, drinking the Starbucks, doing the Uber Eats, doing all this bullshit, and you would actually be putting money aside for things that mattered the most. Learn to be happy with less, and you'll be able to be free. Everyone needs the basics, and I really like this, that's why I wrote it down. Once they're covered, there's another level of comfortable basics, and past that, there's basics that are both comfortable, entertaining, and enlightening. And I thought of psychedelics, honestly, when I read that last part, and enlightening. Love it. Savings equals the gap between your ego and your income. How nice is that? And in terms of psychology, people can always, without fail, this comes from the richest man in Babylon, can always spend as much as they earn. But we learned this law from the richest man in Babylon, something I'm practicing now in real time. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. If I gave you a basket with 10 eggs and you took out but 9, what would happen over time? Your basket would be overfilling with eggs. If you learn to live on less, learn that a part of all you earn is yours to keep, not all that you earn. But financial literacy, but perhaps you, I'm speaking for myself, was never taught that sentiment, a part of all you earn is yours to keep, or to be happy with less, to spend less than you earn. Something that you constantly have to combat. When you get an income, when you get a promotion, when you get a salary raise, don't spend it. Don't increase your cost of living. Don't fucking level up your lifestyle. Keep up with the Joneses to match that, right? Stay here. Create the gap. Create the runway to be free forever. It's the game. Savings equals the gap between your ego and your income. Okay. There's going to be a third homework assignment, and it's to control your tongue. The reason that I'm going to put that in there is because that comes from the law of power that we went over. So I wanted to include that. Say less than you know. Practice that. Why? It'll give you room to think when you're in a situation. And it'll gain respect from your peers by you just not sharing everything that's on your fucking mind. Saying less than you know. Concealing your words, concealing your intentions, having that bland exterior, or playing the fool to fool the fool. But the point is, controlling this, learning to use this to stand guard way. You don't learn shit when you speak. You're just regurgitating what you already know. So when you don't speak, when you control the beast of the tongue, you're actually in a state to receive from others. Practice controlling your tongue. Tame that beast. Practice. That's going to be homework assignment number 3. Okay. Homework assignment number 2 is to write down income, debt, expenses, assets, that statement. To the dollar, your monthly overhead, all of it. Homework assignment number 1 is memorizing the quote, happiness equals results minus expectations. Next. People with enduring personal finance success, not necessarily those with high incomes, tend to have a propensity, I love that word, to not give a damn what others think about them. I love that so much. And I learned, particularly as I've gotten older and have started to become a man on his journey of personal development, of personal financial progression, is you stop giving a fuck about living to impress other people when it's offset through the lens of the potential possibility of freedom forever. You're just like, I remember when I was younger and I would see Andre Jick on YouTube talk about how he had like a Vespa and he was living in like a room rental for this. Like I didn't like, is put me off like one of these like, what is he doing kind of a deal? Like that look that you would have of judgment for someone who is living a certain way, and yet he was setting himself up to be a millionaire and to be free forever. So that he was having his overhead expenses fucking here and his income here, not even making a lot, it's like $50,000, but he was able to pocket 90% of it to create that runway while he was doing YouTube that didn't monetize at the start, that created that gap to be free forever. And I look at that now and it's like, dude, yeah, fuck yes, that's a formula I want to model so that I can also be free forever. People with enduring personal finance success, not necessarily those with high incomes. He had 50 grand when he started, his 50 grand salary job, which is just above minimum wage. tend to have a propensity to not give a damn what others think about them, because it's offset against, dude, I could be free forever. So I don't give a fuck how I'm living or what car people see me driving for the next few years, while they spend shit that they buy things they don't want with money they don't have to impress people they don't even fucking like. Fuck all that, right? I'm not living for somebody else. I'm not having somebody else write the fucking story for my life. I'm gonna live a life of freedom forever by delaying the gratification, not giving a fuck what other people think about me and what I'm doing and how I'm living, so that I can set myself up for freedom forever. And I'm doing that with my actions. The one argument can be made with the cost of this having, your own one-bedroom apartment, but all I need to do, and what I'm working, and I believe it's gonna happen within the next few weeks, within the next 8 weeks, is get to the next level financially, that next higher income job, and not increase my cost of living. The desire for that I used to have just at the start of this university in December, right before I was about to launch, I was like, I'm gonna buy this Mustang because that was the car that I had when I was younger. I was gonna buy the 2023 version of it, which, my past self would really love, but I'm just like, I don't give a fuck about that car now. Yes, I loved driving that when I was younger. Yes, I loved it so much, but I said, I'll be driving an Aston Martin one day. Let me delay the gratification now. I don't give a fuck about that. I care about freedom forever. I care about retiring my mom. I care about giving so much to all the people that I love and care about that I could be giving more to if I become more. That's what I care about. I don't give a fuck about impressing other people. Let me grind delay gratification for the next few years to be free forever. Let me do what others want so I can live a life others can't. Get it? Next. The flexibility and control over your time is an unseen return on wealth, the greatest return, your greatest ROI. Freedom to do whatever the fuck you want, when you want, with whoever you want, for as long as little as you want, any time you want. To be able to wake up and say, I can do whatever the fuck I want today. No one can tell me when I can or can't take a fucking vacation or a day off, or when I have to clock back into work, or what I can or can't say, the man I can or cannot be. The flexibility and control over your fucking time, over the freedom of your life. If there's not a greater, nobler endeavor than that, I don't know what the fuck is, than freedom forever for you and every person that you love. Having more control over your time and options is becoming one of the most valuable currencies in the world. One of the most important parts of finance. Do not aim to be coldly rational when making financial decisions. Aim to just be pretty reasonable. Reasonable is more realistic. And this is the idea that I touched upon and prefaced with Dave Ramsey, talking about, yes, you can use rational thought in terms of paying off the high interest debt, but rational behavior isn't what got you into the circumstance that you're currently in, financially speaking. Aim to just be pretty reasonable. Reasonable is more realistic, and you have a better chance of sticking with it for the long run, which is what matters the most when managing money. And I do the same thing with my diet. I'm very fucking honest with my actions, with my behaviors. I'm lazy as fuck and know I'm not gonna cook and I'm not gonna prep. So I buy food that I don't have to. So for the past months, I've been eating tuna and rice cakes because it doesn't require any measuring. The calories are written on the fucking pouch. It doesn't require any cooking or prepped. All you do is tear this thing and pour it out. No cooking, no cleaning, no prep. Honest with myself. It's not even, I used to pay a slight premium to not have to do anything. It's not even more costly. It's just being honest with your own behavior so that you can stick with it for the long run. Not kidding yourself when you're buying fucking chicken breast and brown rice, knowing you're not going to be consistent with it. Versus buying food you know that it will be sustainable for your given lifestyle. This whole university predicated on what? Honesty, humility. Just be fucking honest with yourself, dude. Honest with your behaviors, honest with your actions, with where you're neglected, where you would neglect, with where you would be fucking lazy. Know thyself and just be honest so that you can be consistent, so that you can set up your life and position yourself to complement your weaknesses, such as Ricardo living here, knowing that in his absence, I would be so much more inclined and weaker to giving in to lust. and we have these conversations in depth. I know myself so much. I know my greatest weakness, which would be in the past, women, right? My greatest of vices. Patrick Bet-David had the same thing. He said, my vice when I was younger was, he was like, parties and women. And I was like, mine, women. And say psychedelics in terms of indulgences or the like. I've been to, 3 festivals in my lifetime? One horrifically, EDC, that was where it was rock bottom. But indulging in things like ecstasy or MDMA or mushrooms, just, I love all of those things as an earned delayed gratification indulgence. But the one that would be the worst of all was women. The one that would make me the most inconsistent with what I say I wanted in terms of this caliber of a woman was the constant indulgence of these women who I should not be entertaining. I should not be sharing my time with. I should not be being intimate with, degrading myself. All of the above. Is this consistent with what I say I want? Fuck no. Can I do that by myself? Perhaps not. So because I'm honest with myself, setting up your life to where you're able to combat that, where you're able to have that accountability, that self-consciousness, that no, now I'm not bringing anyone home because I'm checked. Do you understand? That comes from honesty and humility and understanding your own weaknesses, your own flaws, your own things that you're working on, and setting up that support system, that team. That could be in the form of hiring a coach when you know you're not going to be consistent or held accountable for going to the gym. Financial accountability is the greatest power for a lot of people because it changes the rhetoric to, well, now I have to go. Do you see? It comes from just doing an audit, being honest with yourself, being honest with the rituals, the consistencies, the disciplines or lack thereof that have gotten you to the fucking place that you're at now. And then asking yourself, okay, what do I need to do? What actions do I need to take to commit myself, to be held accountable, to be able to set my life up so that I'll be consistent with the man that I want to be, consistent with what I say I want, to become the right man for the woman I say that I want. You could become him. I know that because I am becoming him every fucking day by being consistent with who I am and what I say I want. Next. Be honest, grind, save, yes, leave margin for simple pleasures. And I think that's important. And it ties in with being just pretty reasonable, not necessarily rational. Yes, I shouldn't spend money on these indulgences. This was actually gifted to us. This is a cigar, which after this, I think I'm gonna indulge in, even though my heart's kind of giving from too much stimulus today in terms of caffeine. So it might be a stupid fucking idea. However, it's important, my sometimes stupidity aside, to leave room for indulgences, man. To enjoy the process of the journey. To not be 100% rational. Food for thought. I put with your spending habits, with your vices, where you are wasting money. I put opportunity cost. When I was living in a Harry Potter closet, because I was able to only pay $600 for rent, and I was taking the bus every day, but my bus pass was between $40 when it was on sale and $70 versus now I have a car that's, I'm also paying for my mom's insurance on it, so there's $320 is going to insurance and $304 is going to the car payment because I got it with super shitty credit, and maybe $90 a month, it actually gets really good mileage, is going to gas. So it's hundreds and hundreds of more dollars compared to a bus pass. However, I get to fucking transport. I get to steal time by not spending 4 hours to go down 2 blocks like I would have, like I was doing when I was taking the bus. Where something as simple as going to the post office would be a whole fucking production. It would take me the entire day. Or to go to the gym, or to go to work. So what is my opportunity cost, right? What is this costing me in terms of women, in terms of income, in terms of peace of mind, in terms of just getting shit done, in terms of opportunities? These are clients that I can't take on because I simply can't manage them because I don't have the means to get there when I was taking the bus, right? So it's all good food for thought in terms of doing an audit. What are your vices? What are your weaknesses? What are you neglecting? Are you lazy as fuck when it comes to meal prepping? Where are you wasting money? Do the fucking audit. See your situation where you are. And this comes from knowing what it is that you want and knowing where you want to go. This is one of the first things that I did. This was back in 2018. I got this from Tony Robbins, and I'll share it with you. It was a previous homework assignment, so I'm not reiterating it. In terms of it being a homework assignment here, go back to an earlier lecture. He's like, write down everything that you want. Write down in every category. Define your dream life, right? Write down where you are in every one of those categories currently. Then here comes the audit. Write down all of the habits that have gotten you to where you are today. Your relationship status, single. Why? Is it because of your dress? Is it because of you're 100 pounds overweight? Is it because you're drowning in debt? Because you can't provide for another person? How can you take care of another person? You can't even take care of yourself. Do the honest audit. What are the rituals that have gotten you to where you are now? And then, what are the new rituals that I'm going to need to implement to get me to where I want to go? Formulate the best plan that you can. This was from Eat That Frog, the last book that we did. Do your best plan, because the plan will improve, especially as you become more equipped, adept to make better plans, but it'll be enough. Formulate your best fucking plan and take action on it. And then you'll be able to close that gap. Then, over time, I think this is from Earl Schoaf or Earl Nightingale, it's from a video. He's like, imperceptibly, you will become the person that you're constantly thinking about. We become what we think about most often. So if you're like, what do I need to do for the man I want to become? And you constantly hold that image every day, before you know it, you'll start dressing like the person that you want to become. You'll start showing up like the person that you want to become. You'll start acting like it. You'll start being consistent with keeping the promises that you make to yourself, because your identity is shifting from, I'm the kind of person who keeps promises that he makes. My word is iron. Food for thought. There are few financial variables more correlated to performance than commitment to a strategy during its lean years. But 100%. Be true when the numbers are small. Until. Next. I want to make sure I didn't flip more than one page. You have to plan on your plan not going according to plan. Such a good quote, it was worth writing twice. The purpose of the margin of safety, room for error, is to render the forecast unnecessary. I love that so much. To render the forecast unnecessary. As in, it doesn't fucking matter what happens, I'm good. I'm good if it fails, I'm good if it flops, I'm good if I miss this bus, I'm good if, the gym is packed, or if there's a traffic jam, because I've given myself 30 minutes for the possibility of being late to work. The purpose of the margin of safety, room for error, is to render the forecast unnecessary. Quote from Benjamin Graham, the author of The Intelligent Investor. You're so set, mentally, financially, spiritually, that conditions, events, surprises don't matter. So you need not worry. This comes from financial peace of mind, from a high margin of safety. How nice all of these things can happen if you just set yourself up to be free forever. It's worth it. He even says that. He even says that in his book. It's worth it. My little sister used to send me it's a clip from Men in Black. And he's like, is it worth it? And he's like, yeah, if you're strong enough. Stupid. Okay. From a high margin of safety. Lila's gonna like that. I don't think she's gonna watch this now. Savings, emergency fund, additional source of income outside of your job. It'll give you all peace of mind. Next. Set yourself up to where a range. I can't even read the L's and the R's in my handwriting. Set yourself up to where a range of potential outcomes are acceptable. Mentally, emotionally, financially. That's the game, right? Versus setting yourself up to where I need this to go exactly right. I have to fucking pull it off perfectly or else my whole life is ruined, right? Where I don't even have the margin for a single atrocity. That's why your heart starts to race when you see cops around, because you're like, I cannot fucking afford getting a ticket right now. Or this happened the other day, and this is how you know my financial position, where I'm trying to get to, is I heard a fucking loud pop as if I ran over glass on my tire, and I was like, I don't want to go backwards. I cannot have a fucking flat tire and be out hundreds of dollars right now. Please, Lord, no. You know what I mean? How many people can relate to that? Why? from not having that peace of mind, that high margin of safety. Next. Set yourself up to where to where a range of potential outcomes are acceptable mentally, emotionally, financially. That's the game. The biggest gains occur infrequently, either because they don't happen often or because they take time to compound. So the person with enough room for error in part of their strategy, cash to let them endure hardship in another, stocks, these are all in parentheses, has an edge over the person who gets wiped out, game over, insert more tokens when they're wrong. So the game of investing over long enough time, is setting yourself up to where a range of outcomes are acceptable. It doesn't matter what happens with the market. It doesn't matter if there's a recession, a depression, a crash, a bear market, a bull market, because you're just playing for the long game. Got it? Having a gap between what you can technically endure versus what emotionally is possible is an overlooked version of room for error. I'm going to repeat that because I blundered it. Having a gap between what you can technically endure and what's emotionally possible is an overlooked version of room for error. And so that's important to reiterate, as in, I want to repeat it so I make sense of it. Having a gap between what you can technically endure versus what's emotionally possible. So yes, I can endure this super loss, but it's actually important for tying into the psychology of money. But now my wife doesn't look at me with the same sense of security. So while it's technically endurable, is it what's emotionally possible for my wife not to feel safe in my fucking house? It's an overlooked version of room for error. So that's an important thought to take away. Yes, you can technically endure a 30% loss or losing your job or whatever. Yeah, you're not going to die, right? You'll still be able to find the means, but do I want to serve cereal to my fucking children? Do I want my wife to look at me with fear of not feeling safe? Is it what's emotionally possible to endure? Food for thought. I'm going, and I put this as my note for my own investment strategy. I was planning on cashing out my CalPERS, which is my retirement thing that they automatically pull out for working in education. But I said, I'm going to roll that over, I believe, into a Roth IRA. And that's just a gift I'm going to let compound to give to my daughter, Alice, one day in the future. So I love that so much. I got that insight from reading this book. The ability to do what you want, when you want, for as long as you want has an infinite ROI. Another sentiment that was worth repeating in this book. I can't stress that enough. Once you've tasted freedom, man, you can't fucking go back to a life of slavery. The biggest single point of failure with money is a sole reliance on a paycheck to fund short-term spending needs with no savings to create a gap between what you think your expenses are and what they might be in the future. I love that. I circled it and starred it. Create the runway. All you need is a runway to be free forever. You just got to be right one time. Set yourself up, set your wife up, set your kids up, set your mom up, your grandparent, your whole the whole fucking team, dude, can be free forever if you just lock in and focus. Any young man watching this, man, if you just fucking laser in, get your shit together, write down where you're at, write down the best plan of how you're going to get to where you want to go. What do you need to do? What responsibility do you need to take on? What gratification do you need to delay, right? What are your areas of weaknesses? Where are your neglects? Where are you fucking lazy? Where do you need to be consistent? Where do you need to level up? Do you need to lose 100 pounds? Do you need to get out of $30,000 of debt? Do you need to get a higher income paying job? Do you need to lower your overhead expenses? Do the fucking audits. Because by you becoming more and you becoming better, you make everyone else's life better. Do not underestimate the effect that your fucking neglect and procrastination is having on every single person that you say that you love. Prove that with your fucking actions. Next. Imagining a goal is easy and fun. You get dopamine from talking about goals. It's a fun exercise to do when you write out your dream life. Very fun. Imagining a goal in the context of the realistic life stresses that go along with that grow with the competitive pursuits, is something else entirely different. And I put women and money, and then I put the 10x rule. What was the number one takeaway from that book? Don't overestimate the amount of support you're going to get. Don't underestimate the amount of work it's going to take. It's fun to imagine your goals in a perfect world in a vacuum, but do not, this was a homework assignment in the past, don't fucking overestimate the amount of support you're going to get, of how well it's going to go. Do not underestimate the amount of work it's going to take or the amount of adversity you're going to have to overcome. Particularly if you're starting a business, particularly if you're pursuing entrepreneurship, particularly if your goal is freedom forever. Yeah, everyone wants to be free. Most men lead quiet lives of desperation because they lack the courage to pursue the failure, the heartbreak, despair, the defeat, the falling into the despair and depression and the all this garbage. Overcome, perseverance, being the man in the arena until you're a different fucking man, when you become so resourceful, right? The first rule of compounding, never interrupt it unnecessarily. And I put that with Ratlife, and I put that with CalPERS. Good food for that. Compounding works best when you can give a plan years or decades to grow. This is true for not only savings, but careers and relationships. Love it. The trick is, accept the reality of change and move on as soon as possible. You have to be honest. I put Ratlife pre-workout, as in I could have looked at it as, and I did initially, I have to start over. I'm starting from fucking nothing when I did book 1 of the university. Because I put 2 years into the supplement company. 2 years to say, this isn't what I want to do. This isn't I'm going to have the greatest impact. I'm going to be able to be in harmony and alignment with my purpose, with my calling, to view the forfeiture of 2 years of work as this wasn't a failure, but this was the needed catalyst to put me on the path for this university, was the mindset switch that I needed to be able to make that change. So that's the important parts, to be able to harness the power of compounding, is accept the reality of change. Move on as soon as possible. Be honest. Start over. But let's do it as soon as fucking possible. And I even cashed out my CalPERS the first time when I left the Ratlife. It was only a few $1,000s. But what could it have been if it was left in to date, right? But it's that idea, I'm not going to cry over spilled milk. I'm not going to beat myself up over the mistakes and lessons of the past, because I've learned to change my behavior. The quicker it's done, the sooner you can get back to compounding. It's very true. So that's the important thing. If you're wanting to start something new, but you're like, fuck, I have to start, the time is going to go by regardless. You might as well get fucking going on it. Right? I think that makes sense. Nothing's free. The volatility, uncertainty fee, the price of returns, is the cost of admission to get returns greater than low fee parks, is what the analogy he uses, like cash and bonds. So it's trying to set you up mentally for when you're going to go into investing, with not the mentality that you're paying a fine, as viewing it as a penalty when your money goes down, but viewing it as this is the admission fee to be able to play the fucking game. If you change the rhetoric and the mindset and the lens that the cost of admission to play the game is the temporary loss, because when you expand the time horizon, you will be earning more over a longer period of time. When you get out of the tree and you get to see the forest, you understand, and he wants to hammer this point home, that you have to pay to play. The cost of admission, just like you're going to Disneyland, right? The cost of a day of magic, right? In the wonderful world of Disney, is the admission ticket. When you're playing the game of investing, the volatility uncertainty fee is the price of those greater returns than if you just hold cash or purchase bonds. What you lose temporarily is simply an admission fee 100% worth paying. Because like Tony Robbins says, like Sue, that analogy from earlier, regardless of if you go into the market on the worst fucking day, you will still earn more than if you're out of the game. So it's a fee, an admission fee, worth paying. Pay it and enjoy the magic. tying in with Disneyland. In money saving / investing, sit down and find out what game you're playing, your goals. And I love this so much, and I put all of these are my commentary. Just know what game you're playing, and fucking don't give a fuck what other game anybody else is playing, right? Because what they are playing, it may be something that's super high risk, gambling. I'm just going to go all in on crypto, shit coins, right? Not my game. This person, the game they're playing, they're 70 years old, they're about to retire. They're worrying about an income for the rest of their remaining days. Not my game. What are your goals? What are your plans? What is your timeline? Your stress tolerance, your risk tolerance, right? Your time horizon, your exit strategy. Once you identify it, play your game. Don't pay attention to anything or anyone unrelated to it. The hardest part, particularly with social media, is you're watching everyone's race and everyone else's fucking timeline and everyone else's bullshit. It's all noise that you're getting distracted by. And so you're not running your own race. And one of the insight that I got while I was reading The Power of Positive Thinking was I'm exactly where I should be, because I read a passage that was in perfect alignment that only could have been proof that I was supposed to read it at this time. Something that was applying to my personal life. I don't remember what the takeaway was from that book. But it was tying in with a woman that was heavily on my mind. I was just like, I was supposed to read this at this time. And I had a previous stress that I'm behind with my university, with the books that I'm posting to date. Because it was like, I'm not doing a book a week. I wanted to do a book a week. And then I read whatever passage and I was just like, I'm exactly where I should be. And I love that I saw in a video that that's God's pace and God's timing. It's like, he's not in a hurry, he's not in a rush. And if you feel like I need to hurry up, I need to run faster, what about this person? He's like, Preston, he said, Preston, that's not your race. I have him in his race, in his own race. That's another race. You're good. I'm right here with you. That's God's timing, God's rhythm. We talked about that in our last book, Eat That Frog. Or was it The Power of Positive Thinking? I think it was The Power of Positive Thinking, actually, is to get in harmony with God's time and God's rhythm. But more so, just understand that you're not behind. And that was the sentiment in The Power of Positive Thinking, is to view the world that even the most minor of circumstances are actually things that you're being guided towards, or circumstances that you needed to endure. Even the most seemingly insignificant are meant to happen to you. And it's such a cool lens to view the world. So it's the idea of to run your race. You're not late. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're on time. You're thinking about talking with God, which was a previous homework assignment. You're good. You're good. I'm here with you. All right. And to ignore the bullshit, man, it's just fucking noise. Ignore the news, the radio, the celebrities, the gossip, the distractions, the fucking FOMO, the garbage, comparison traps. All bullshit, all fucking noise distracting you from your race, from watering your garden. Food for thought. Asymmetric aversion to loss is an evolutionary shield. Organisms that treat threats as more urgent than opportunities have a better chance to survive and reproduce. So it's why they sell fear and why people buy into fear versus good news, because it's your evolutionary shield. When you treat threats as more urgent than opportunities, you have a better chance to survive and reproduce. All about the psychology of money. I thought it was fascinating. Growth is driven by compounding, which always takes time. I'll say it again for the people in the back. Growth is driven by compounding, which always takes time. Time. I asked that to Ricardo. I said, how long have you been training for? He's like, 10 years. I said, yeah. So he was, gonna be doing, he said, what are your thoughts about doing a competition? I said, that's great, but don't do some 30-day challenge bullshit. That was one, if you type in abs or fitness on YouTube, one of the most popular videos, has millions and millions of views, was how to get abs in 2 weeks. And I said, these fucking crooks should be punched in the throat for this bullshit garbage that people eat up, right? Thinking that they can get out of the work. And the fact that they get to monetize on that bullshit thought of others, it's fucked. And it's so sad that that's the world that we live in. But it's the reality, is we live in a world that's so weak that everyone's trying to get out of the fucking work. That if you have any sort of grit, quote from Dana White, you could run these fucking kids over. Because there is no competition. Everyone is so fucking weak and soft. Nobody can stick to anything with any sort of delayed gratification, with any sort of consistency. Weak. And I don't just mean physically weak. They're fucking mentally weak, spiritually weak, emotionally weak. They have so brittle metal. They've never been through fire. They don't know what fucking perseverance is, what work ethic is, patience, discipline, merit, character, integrity, patience. I think I said that already. That's the quality caliber of men, fucking children, with ego, with arrogance, pricks. Run these fucking kids over, man. If you're, Dana White says this, just anything of a savage, it's the biggest generation of pussies. Thus the importance and severity of this university is you're in a world of fucking snowflakes, of political correctness, of people who are too afraid to say there are two genders, to say go fuck yourself with your pronouns, fuck your feelings, fuck your state of depression, get to work, quit feeling fucking sorry for yourself and do something about it, quit your pity party. People are too much of a pussy to say the fucking truth in the world that we live in today. It's wild. Don't be a snowflake, right? Not to say don't cry for a day. I have no qualms with you crying from the power of positive thinking. Sorrow, what a beautiful thing that God gave us a relief system, mechanic, with our own bodies to relieve ourselves from the burden of sorrow. How cool is that? Not saying that. I'm saying cry for a fucking day and then dust yourself off and remember who the fuck you are. Get back to work. I've always viewed my setbacks and adversity as, well, feeling sorry for myself and bitching and moaning yet doing nothing isn't going to change it. It's not going to remedy the situation. So what can I do? And the sooner that you switch the this happened to me to how can I solve this problem, the sooner you'll find your problem remedied. Quote from Jack Sparrow, the problem isn't the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. So when people say, why are you so optimistic? How can you be so positive? We're all going to make it. We're all going to make it. What is the fucking alternative? Food for thought. Note to self. It will take years for others to realize how important a product Ratlife University is. And the reason that I wrote that is because it took years for the Wright brothers to have credibility for creating the fucking airplane. Years before it was acknowledged as world-changing. After it had already taken flight. And I said, if that took years to be confirmed as a holy shit, it's gonna take years for people to see the severity and need for this university. And I'm okay with that. Thus the importance of creating that high margin of safety, high room for error, long time horizon, creating the runway so that we can be free forever, understanding that we will break through. Belief, potential, action, results over time. We will, over time, long enough time horizon, make it. Escape. Until we'll get there. Let patience have her perfect work. Next. Get out of your way to find humility when things are going right and forgiveness, compassion when they are going wrong. Do so when judging both yourself and others. Saving money is the gap between your ego and your income. These are all summaries of the book. So, number 1, go out of your way to find humility when things are going right. Humble your fucking self. Stay grounded. And forgiveness, compassion when they're going wrong. Do so when judging both yourself and others. Saving money is the gap between your ego and your income. Wealth is what you don't see. In the purchases, indulgences you don't make. So wealth is created by suppressing what you could buy today in order to have more stuff or more options in the future. Do what others won't, the idea, of do what others won't, and one day you'll live a life others can't, right? So less ego, more wealth, more freedom forever. Next. If you want to do better as an investor, the single most powerful thing you can do is increase your time horizon. It makes big mistakes fade away. And I love that so much, and I even put love it, because when you zoom out of the trees and see the forest, when you zoom out of, today is August 9th, and view the entire year of 2024, the next 10 years, then you're just like, one day of fucking up my diet or wasting money or whatever, it's fine. One day backwards, one step backwards for two steps forward, it's fine. So if you want to do better as an investor, the single most powerful thing you can do is increase your time horizon. It makes big mistakes fade away, and it gives you that lens to give yourself that grace and compassion that they talked about earlier. You can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune. I think that's a quote from either Charlie Munger or Warren Buffett. Use money to gain control over your time, the highest paying dividend that exists in finance, the ability to live free. Save. Savings, I love this, is your hedge against life's inevitable surprises / setbacks. Gift yourself peace of mind with that margin for error. Room for error, what is it? It's a gap between what could happen in the future and what you need to happen in the future in order to do well, is what gives you endurance, and endurance is what makes compounding magic over time, and I put in parentheses, until. Ratlife, and I put Ratlife needing to monetize by, I put 2028. I was like, I just need Ratlife to monetize in like 4 years. If I can do that, we're good. And Alex Hormozy said this to his video editor. He's like, I just need to know that we're in the right direction, and that like 5 or 10 years from now. And his editor, his video tech guy, he was like, I literally have never heard anybody speak like that. That as long as we'll be good in 5 years, then we're on track. He's never heard people speak in those kind of time horizons before, versus, no, we need to be doing this performance now, in these 30 days, in these 90 days, in this quarter, in this year, versus I just need to make sure that this is sustainable, and I put in 2028, so I can be free forever from the gap, right? From the runway that we're all creating together within this university so that we can all be free forever. Okay. Define the game that you're playing, right? Define your race, know where you are, and make sure your actions are not being influenced by people playing a different game. Ignore the bullshit, it's just noise. Despite more than a decade of rising incomes, I love this so much. I love this so much because this is him and his wife on their personal finances and habits, practices. Despite more than a decade of rising incomes, myself in finance, my wife in healthcare, we've more or less stayed at that lifestyle ever since. That pushed our savings rates continuously higher. Virtually every dollar of raise has accrued to savings, our independence fund. Imagine that. Imagine you and your woman are both on the same page that we're not going to go on fancy, luxurious vacations or expenditures or wasting money here, because we're both aligned with the idea of being free forever. He puts it as my independence fund, as in we can allocate the increase in our earnings while not increasing our overhead expenses and stack that money into our savings, which perpetuates the gap, which perpetuates the runway of needing to go back to the rat life. What if you can make that runway so long that you never have to go back? That's the game. I shared this with Ricardo. It's important that you do what you need to do, even if you don't want to do it, as quickly as possible, so you can spend the majority of your life doing what you want to do. That's the game. Yes, do whatever the fuck it's going to take for 3-5 years, right? But when you actually do the time horizon in terms of maybe I'm going to live till I'm 80, then the next 5 years, I'm 29 right now, so the next 5 years, 34, right? Versus 80, that's 46. Yeah, 5 years of slavery versus 46 or 50 years of freedom. Very fucking small price to pay versus 50 years, a lifetime of slavery. But nobody views it as that. So view it as your independence fund. Next. A secondary benefit of maintaining a lifestyle below what you can afford is avoiding the psychological treadmill of keeping up with the Joneses. I appreciated that. True success is exiting some rat race to modulate one's activities for peace of mind. I love that. I said, and this were my iteration of that, true success is escaping the rat life. At some point you have to choose between being happy and being right. I just like that, that's why I wrote it. Holding more cash, not being forced to sell stocks, this is his ideology in terms of investing, is to hold more cash, which other people can argue, oh, you're not getting whatever return. He's like, yeah, I know. It's not rational, but to him it's reasonable. Because not being forced to sell stocks to cover an unexpected expense also means we're increasing the odds of letting the stocks we own compound for the longest period of time. The first rule of compounding, a good rule to reiterate, is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. And that's actually going to be another homework assignment, is to memorize that. The first rule of compounding, see if I have it memorized, is to, never interrupt it unnecessarily. Now I do. The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. By who? Charlie Munger. Who was the best friends of who? Warren Buffett. Who had the quote of what? We always knew we were going to be rich. We always knew we were going to be wealthy. We were never in a hurry. Play the long game. Expand the time horizon. You're going to make it. We're all going to fucking make it. To finish. For most investors, dollar cost averaging into a low cost index fund will provide the highest odds of long-term success. And it's exactly what I'm going to do when I'm at that stage. I'm not at that stage yet, but that's exactly what I'm going to do when I'm at that stage in my life. And I love that, because then I get to reiterate all this, all the literature, all the notes, and play the game myself. We're all working to escape the rat life and be free forever, and I love it. We're not done yet. I know I said to finish, but it's the last page. We invest money from every paycheck into these index funds, a combo of US and international stocks. There's no set goal. It's just whatever's left over after we spend. We max out retirement accounts in the same funds, and I put in parentheses Roth IRA or Roth 401k on indexes. And that's about it. Effectively, all of our net worth is a house, a checking account, and some Vanguard index funds. Keeping it very, very simple, and he's free forever. Having a woman who's aligned with that mentality, that we're have a sense of enough with our overhead expenses, with the simple pleasures, with covering the basics, and then comfortability, and then a sense of enlightenment from those basics. Am I saying my woman has to be a woman who is okay with the, infrequent indulgence of something like a psychedelic? Perhaps. We'll see. Or a cigar? Yes. I love that so much. But I love the simplicity of that so much. That's why I wrote it down. And I put it in a bracket and a smiley face. If you can read my notes. See the bracket and the smiley face? His investing strategy: a high savings rate, patience, and optimism for the future. To align with his goals, and I put mine too. Number 1, independence. Freedom forever. And number 2, maximizing sleeping well at night. Security, peace of mind. That is book number 18, The Psychology of Money, by Morgan Housel. Incredible fucking book. And that is book number 18 of Ratlife University. Gosh, it's awesome. Awesome. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this was a long one, but I love that idea so much. Of the biggest takeaway from that book is to lose the rational thoughts and have a better cognizance of the reasonable thought. Being honest with your behavior, being honest with your actions, being honest with your habits, with your consistencies, with where you neglect, with your indulgences, with your vices, with your weaknesses. Be fucking honest with yourself. How else can we change? Know where you are. Do that exercise. What are my overhead expenses? What are my sources of income. What is to the dollar? How much am I spending? How much am I earning? What do I need to do? From first establishing where do I want to go? And then what do I need to do to fucking get there? Do I need to cut out the drugs? Do I need to cut out the alcohol? Do I need to cut out the drug addicts and alcoholics that I fucking deem my friends? Like I had to do. I had to say, get the fuck out of my life. I'm not this person. I fuck playing this character. Fuck being around degenerates and fucking losers, right? Because I lost the selfishness. As in, I looked at the people that I loved and I said, how the fuck can I justify my behavior here when I say I want to be a good son to my mom who's still working a job and I'm continuing to fucking dick around? It's just being honest. How the fuck can you call yourself a good wife or a good husband if you're not constantly working to improve, to better yourself? You're not becoming more, so you have less to give the people that you say you care about. How can you say you actually love them when you could be giving them more, but you're choosing fucking not to from your cowardice, from your neglect? It's not cute. And that was when I hit rock bottom, is I looked at my situation when I was taking the bus, when I was living, literally my neighbor was a prostitute, and I was surrounded, living with drug addicts and alcoholics. And I was friends with drug addicts and alcoholics. I was drowning in debt, had no pride in my appearance, and I said, this isn't fucking cute anymore. And I said, fuck this. And it was the day that I said enough. That's when I changed my life. And it's put me on the trajectory that I'm on now. So, with that, that's where we're at with this noble quest at this university. And I'm going to say it until I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it again. What is Ratlife? This planting the seed of belief. Anyone can escape. Anyone can escape the fucking rat life. He just said how here. Not with an impressive income. This is my overhead expenses. This is my income. There's the gap. I'm gonna save, stack, stack, stack to create that runway. To let the law of compounding work over time until anyone can escape. Starts with belief and the courage to pursue. That is Ratlife, book number 18 of the university. We are all gonna make it. My battery's gonna die, so it's perfect timing.